is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Shannon Show, where we talk about things that some people may be too afraid to talk about. That's right, nothing is too taboo for this channel. Today, I am so genuinely excited for the guest that we have with us, Daqurairus Greene. He is going to be talking about his insane testimony that is just so inspiring. He legitimately had a 1% chance of living, y'all. If you want to know all about that, definitely keep watching. I want to put out a trigger warning for you all. We're going to dive deep into how this experience that he's had has caused a lot of mental health challenges and some thoughts of self-harm as well. So if that's something that is going to be a little bit too triggering for you, I definitely want you to make sure you utilize the right resources that's going to get you through this video, or hey, maybe not even watch this video at all. I definitely want to say the disclaimer that you are not alone. Always, always ask for help. There's always someone out there who's willing to listen, and you're not a burden on anyone. With that being said, let's dive deep into Daqurairus' story.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Sipping on the potion, all that good emotion, just my kind of.
Ready to get started? So this is, again, like literally like a long-awaited thing. So, okay, so when I was thinking about like doing this with you, I was like, how am I gonna like start this off? Because your story is like, what would you describe it as? What would you kind of like describe who you are with your situation you went through a few years ago?
I would say my story's crazy.
Okay, so I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to offend you. I was like,
it's crazy.
it's insane, right?
It is.
So as a survivor of a fatal accident, I guess you could say, like, is that what you?
Fatal accident, yeah, 'cause my best friend, she lost her life in an accident.
She lost her life.
It was fatal.
So we'll definitely get into that. But before we even jump in, I'm like getting too juicy. Like, introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay.
Tell them where they can find you, because you have so many great initiatives because of your story. So let's jump off by starting with that, just in case someone hops off and they don't know where to find you.
I got you. So my name is Daqurairus Greene. I go by Q. Everybody calls me Q. So I'm a graduate student at Georgia State University, and you can find me on my social medias on my Instagram at _1decisionaway with the number 1, and on Twitter at 1decisionaway with the number 1, and I have a website as well, and it's called onedecisionaway.com, and so my information is on there. And so I'll say it one more time: Instagram _1decisionaway with the number 1, on Twitter at 1decisionaway with the number 1, and then on my Instagram is onedecisionaway.com with the number 1.
Which is so important, because with all that you went through, you have money that you raised, right? So I guess we can first start off by, I feel like I'm already starting to jump around. That's like how my brain works. So let's just go in order. I want to share with them how we met, because how we met goes into how I learned about you. Do you even remember, like?
I remember how we met because I needed something to come down. And so I just started coming down, and I was like, Shannon, you helped me out the first time, and ever since then, I was like the only resident to speak to you, and I was like, I don't know why, I was just like, I just always spoken. I was like, hey, Shannon, and then you'll always look up surprised, like, oh, hey, Q, and then it just started from there.
Well, half the time I feel like I never wear my glasses, so I always am like, who is saying hi to me? But I remember because you moved in the summer early, and that's when I feel like, that's when I had helped you, and I remember thinking, like, I've never told this to you, but I remember when I saw how you walked, right? I was like, oh, do I like walk slow with him? Do I like, because I'm a really fast walker, and in that moment it made me realize like how, I guess, privileged I am to be the way my body can function. And I was always curious. Well, I wasn't like necessarily like, oh, I wonder what's wrong with him, but for some people they're born like that. Yeah. And so in my head I was like, oh, like he was born like the way he's walking, maybe he had some dysfunction in his bones or maybe in his muscles, and like he was born like that, and I kind of thought nothing of it. But that was when randomly one day you're like, oh, Shan, I want to give you something. Yes, because I still have it. And you gave me the brochure. It literally had your face on it, and I was like, what the heck is, yes. I should have bought it. It's in my office.
I didn't know. When I gave that to you, not to cut you off, I just thought you didn't even look at it, honestly.
No, I still have it. Okay, and you literally were like, I remember you saying, you're like, oh, I think you're a cool person, so I want you to have this. Yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe it's like his business that like he started, because like, you know, everyone here in Georgia State are like hustlers. Like they are always having some type of business. I was walking back to my office and I read it and I was like, what the heck? Like, I was so shocked because it had the photos of your accident and it had like a brief summary of your story and what you went through. So let's just start by sharing exactly what happened. It's 2014, right?
2014.
So kind of start from the timeline of everything.
Okay, so it was my senior year, which I had a crazy senior year, right? And so it was always
Senior year of high school.
senior year of high school. So it was just always, that was like some of the best time of my life. So I always had fun. And so my whole life, I was gonna go to the military like my dad, because school was not for me. I realized that I was like, oh yeah, no, school is not it. And then I took an ASVAB in 11th grade, and I got like you can get a 30, that's what you need. But I got like a 37, 38. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the Army. Like, there's nothing else. Like, well, it was whatever. And then back at that time, I remember people saying, you're just gonna go to the Army, like, you're not gonna try to do nothing with your life. I'm like, look, bro, I'm going to the Army. Like, school is not for me.
Yeah.
And so my whole life, that's what I was waiting for to get out of the Army, because my dad was in the military. And honestly, I saw my dad, and I was like, okay, if I could live a single life like my dad and get paid like my dad, I would be okay. That was my whole mindset, right? Just kind of get through life and have fun doing it. And so on May 6, 2014, I was one step away, got dressed, and on this day, I went to go take the ASVAB again, just to try to see if I could get a higher score.
Yeah.
Pass with flying colors. And so I was going to get sworn in like a week later or something like that, but I was just going to finish the next 2 weeks of high school in Army Strong, here I come. That was going to be my whole process, is work that whole summer and then leave like August to go to the military to spend that last summer with my friends. So that was the plan. And then May 7th, I woke up, and on this day, I woke up super energetic. And I said, okay, today's gonna be crazy. I don't know why, but today's gonna be the best day of school we ever had in our life.
And now, was that like your last day of school?
No, it was actually because the underclassmen, they had to take a test. So the seniors could come late anyway.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And I mean, you can either go or you can come late.
Okay.
Me and my friends just decided, man, we're gonna come late. There's no reason.
Yeah, why would you make the decision to go early?
Right, and so then when my mom left, I said, man, I'm gonna take the car. Like, and I've took in the car before. Like, I don't even mean to brag about this, but just to enlighten the situation more, I took the car all the time without my parents' permission. I had my license and everything, and I never got away with it. They always suspected it, but never like red-handed. And so I took the car like any other day. Mm-hmm. And so when I took the car, me and my friends, we stayed at my house, then took the car, went to go pick up 2 more of my friends. When I get to the school, like, I can see myself envisioning walking through the doors right now. Memory goes blank from there on out. Don't remember the rest of the day. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital bed in the middle of the night. But that's jumping a little too forward. But so my friends tell me that day was hectic. Wow. Said it was out of control. Said I was on 10 the whole day. Leaving, coming back to school, all that. And they said it carried on out to the parking lot towards the end of the day, where principals and teachers were eventually called out because we were just doing too much, right? Dancing on top of cars, doing all guys know what. And we all jumped in our cars, and 2 of my friends got in the car with me. One of my best friend, Jasmine, one of another friend, Shannon. And we was so much in a rush, we didn't put on our seatbelts. And you put on your seatbelts, you don't really time it, but for those of you listening, next time you get in your car, Shannon, just time yourself, put on a seatbelt.
Yeah.
It's gonna take less than 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And so we didn't ever think about putting on the seatbelts. We were so much in the rush just to get out there. And 5 minutes later, it's about 10 cars, and we're all speeding, friends, classmates, and we're all speeding down the 2-lane highway. And I start off in the rear. And my friends say that I went around one car, and as I'm attempting to go around another car, I start to lose control of the vehicle. The car spins out of control, and the car starts flipping. And as the car is flipping off, 3 of us are getting ejected due to us not wearing our seatbelts. So when I landed, I broke my neck, knocked unconscious immediately. Shanti landed in some bushes. She had severe injuries to her back. My best friend Jasmine landed, she hit her head on the pavement where she bled out and she took her last breath. And so from that day, me and Ashanti were flown to Greene Hospital. And the next day I had to have surgery. where they put 4 screws in my neck to replace the broken bone. Surgery lasted about 6 hours. Still have the scar. And after the surgery, they told my mom and dad that, Mrs. Greene, you love your son. You say you love your son. You about to spend every day with him for the rest of his life. Mr. Greene, you know you plan on retiring out of the military at the end of the year, because that was my whole dad. That was my dad thing. After I graduated high school, he was going to retire at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Once I was all good and set, so he was planning on retiring out of the military. You're gonna have to work a little bit longer, all right? And so, in less than 24 hours, I would say, my parents' lives, my best friend's parents' lives, their family, Ashanti, her family lives are all changed because of my decisions on May 7th, all right? A decision I used to make every day has changed 3 families' lives forever. All right, so next couple of days I'm in a coma for about 7 days. Like I said, first thing I remember is waking up in the hospital bed. I remember like it was last night. First breath I take is super cold, and
Like your body was cold,
yeah,
or like
the air was cold.
Okay.
The air was cold, and so I used to think, like, it's in the summertime, so I'm thinking I'm in my room. We got the air on, so I try to move and get up, but nothing's moving. So I go back to sleep thinking, it's a bad dream. This is one of those dreams where we all have where we just can't move.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought it was, nothing of it. And I remember waking up the next day, like I've been doing for the past 18 years of my life. And when I woke up this time, what I soon thought was a dream was really reality. Because every attempt that I tried to make to get up, I couldn't move. Only thing moving was my eyes. And so, didn't realize I was paralyzed from my neck down. At that time, I couldn't speak. I had a tray in I had a breathing tube in my mouth, so I couldn't speak. Didn't know where I was at. It was just in a hospital bed. All I could move was my eyeballs and a little movement in my head, and my dad had to inform me on everything that happened. Well, he didn't tell me. Nobody told me about my best friend dying. He just said you was in a car accident, and it was pretty bad. That was it, right? And so, for the next 2 weeks, I'm in Greene Hospital. They moved me to the 6th floor at Greene, and that's when it was determined that I have to go to a rehab facility called the Shepherd Center. That's a special rehab facility that specializes in spinal cord injuries and burn injuries. And on May 23rd, 2014, I was in the back of an ambulance getting transferred from Greene Hospital to the Shepherd Center. It's about a 10-minute ride. And in that 10-minute ride, I'm crying my eyes out because I'm missing my high school graduation.
That day was your high school
That day,
graduation.
May 23rd, 2014, was the day of my high school graduation. And I'm missing it because everything that happened on May 7th, 2014. And as I'm going in the ambulance, crying my eyes out, right? Just thinking like, wow, I'm missing one of the most impactful moments of my life.
Yeah.
The day you talk about, as soon as you find out your graduation year, that's the only thing on your mind.
Yeah, because not everyone chooses to go to college, and at that moment, you didn't choose to go to
I
college.
didn't choose to go
So
to
for many people, that's the biggest moment that, like you said, you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Especially high school is, gets tough,
It
So,
definitely does. And so it was just all the plans we had at graduation night was going through my head.
yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to do this, I'm not gonna be able to do that. But still not understanding the total impact of my accident, because at this time I still don't know my best friend is dead.
So you lived how many days not knowing she was dead?
Probably like a month in that. Probably like a month. Nobody
month?
told me.
Wow.
Nobody told me. When I first woke up from the hospital and I knew I was in the bed, I called her. She didn't answer her phone, right? But I didn't.
Yeah.
But my homeboy, one of my best friends, I called him. He answered. We were just talking, having fun. We were talking about prom night, right? I was like on medicine, so I was just no filter. I was just talking, right? So
Yeah.
conversation was crazy. So as I'm in the Shepherd Center, the first week in the Shepherd Center goes by really quick. Like I don't remember too much of it, right? And at the end of the weekend, family and friends is coming inside, and we're all joking and having a good time. And my friends, like when we was talking about earlier, like a serious moment, sometimes the best thing to do is to joke about it, right? And so my friends and we joke about everything, right? And so when people are seeing me like this, family and friends, they don't know what to say, like, right? Because I'm in a power, I can't move. I'm in a motorized wheelchair with my mom and dad is pushing by myself. So what my friends did, they did the best thing they could do ever for me in my life, is joke about me and my situation, about how skinny I was, about how thin these white socks I had on. It was real funny. And from there on out, they treated me like nothing was wrong with me. And so that was like the best thing for me. That's why when you was like you didn't know what to say to me when you first saw me. When people first see me, I would rather for them to ask, like, yo, bro, what happened? Instead of just them staring at me for like 5 minutes. Trying to figure out. It's just that moment's always so funny because it just be like, but I get it though, because before my accident, I wouldn't know what to say to somebody with a disability because you never know. It's like two different worlds from having a disability and from not having a disability. So some people are born like that, so they live their whole life going through a disability. And so it's about to be 8 years since my accident. So 18 years of living a completely, fully normal functioning body life to a disability going in 8 years is a big change, right? And just see how people interact with you and how tense people get because they don't know what to say.
I mean, that's kind of like how I was when I was like, oh, I don't know, like exactly what to do. Like, we walked down a long hallway, and I'm like, do I walk next to him? Like, I didn't want to be disrespectful, you know?
And it's so funny because my friends, right, when the accident first happened and everything, like, at that time in your life, depending on what you're doing, 18, 19, 20-year-old, you're starting to live the world. You go to clubs, everything, right?
Yeah.
So my friends, in the beginning stage of me, they was always out. So, and I used to always want, like, I want to be with my friends so bad.
And I'm sure social media didn't help because I feel like at that time in 2014, it was like
Snapchat.
a big change, like Snapchat. I don't know when Instagram stories came out, but maybe around.
It was a little bit after that.
Yeah, but like definitely Snapchat because.
Snapchat popped.
Yeah, because before you could just like take a picture, post it later, or post it in the moment. But then with Snapchat, it's like you're physically seeing what they're doing at that moment.
At that moment.
And I don't know about you, but I have bad FOMO, so I'm sure like fear of missing out.
Okay, I didn't know.
Your face.
Okay, I'm like FOMO. I'm like, I don't know if I have that, but
fear of missing out.
Yeah, definitely. And I still deal with that a little. It's better. I'm at peace with it now. But back then it was just so hard, right?
And because it was so fresh.
And it was so fresh, and I saw my friends just living that life that in my head, that should have been me.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first time us going out. Because my friends used to be so scared to hang out with me.
Really?
Because they didn't want me to fall.
Yeah.
And they didn't want my parents to blame them. But the crazy thing about it is my parents would never blame them, but they still would have just felt guilty.
Yeah.
And at that time, like just crowds or whatever like that. But they didn't know I actually do better in crowds because if I start to lose my balance, there's somebody right there like to like bounce off of. And so it's funny. It's just,
I would have never thought
it would have been
that.
funny, like bounce okay cool with somebody right there.
Yeah.
So it's different things. And I remember this when Club Opera was open and it was pretty popular. And it was New Year's Eve, right? So one of my best friends, he came home from the Marines. And we was all home at the same time. And we was like, we're gonna go out. And they called me. They was like, Q-Man, right? You wanna go out with us? I'm like, are you serious? They like, yeah. And so we get out, we're walking to the club. Of course, I was walking way worse before, at a slower pace, and it was super cold, right? And they was like, bro, you begged us to come out. You begged us to let us come out. If you can't keep up, don't ever ask us to go out again. And so they said that to me, and that's why when people be like, I don't know if I should walk your pace or not, my friends leave me all the time. And they just look back and I just hold my thumb up like, I'm okay. I'm okay. So like whenever we at parties or something, we get separated, where I'd be like, that's my signal. That's my signal for the thumbs up to let you know that I'm okay. So it's just like that. So it's always funny like that. But going back and then so in the hospital, like that's why I said they came and everything like that. And so then that second week in the Shepherd Center. Right at the end of the first week, we was watching NBA playoffs. Game goes on commercial break, and my daddy asked me a question, Q, what you missed the most? Everybody in the room just goes completely silent, right? Because everybody wants to hear my reaction.
Yeah.
And then one thing they was afraid to tell me because they knew that it was gonna crush me, right? Wouldn't go to therapy, but me, I don't know, my friends call me a detective because sometimes I ask too many questions, and my mind's always wondering, like, and something's not going on. I'm asking my friends about certain situations, they get quiet. I'm like, man, something's not going on, right? And so my counselor, she didn't tell me because my parents didn't want her to tell me. So it's a computer room in a therapy center, and I go one day afterwards, and I just type my name in the computer, and everything just pops up.
Like
Google,
on the news?
On Google, what happened and everything like that. Right?
And that's how you found out about Jasmine?
That's how I found out about Jasmine. And so it crushed me. Like I was like just distraught. Wow. So like for a whole week I didn't go to therapy. It was just crazy because I'm like, man. And at that time, before my best friend, I was doing okay mentally.
Yeah.
With taking on the situation, right? Because I'm like, I'm getting better. It's cool. I don't got too much to worry about. But then you find that out. Everything is like, this is bigger than what it really is, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's when I realized that police got involved, right? Everything like that. And so that was crazy. I found that out. Mental just went crazy.
Which I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask about,
Yeah.
like, that was literally what I was going to transition to next, like your mental health and how that affected you. That plays a big part when you're in a really big accident. So you went to therapy, and you had like a peer counselor in a sense. Okay, so then after learning that about Jasmine, what shifted in your mental health? What steps did you take, if you took any at all?
In the beginning, I was distraught, right? I thought about suicide, survivor's guilt. Why me? Like, you know, that's when you find out you survive through that. It's like, why me?
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, why me? Like, if anything, just take me, like, replace any situation, right? Because it's like, at the time, my best friend, she was 16 years old. She was 2 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So she went to prom with one of my best friends, and so she did get to go to prom, but she still had 2 more years to live for high school and a whole life to live, right? And so that was just that mental health right there. You got some tissue?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that mental health was just crazy because suicide was on my mind the whole time, right? I just wanted to kill myself. I didn't be here. I didn't know how I could live a world with that on my conscience. And my best friend passed away, but then there was also another girl who was in an accident, right? And so she survived everything well. She got a big scar on her back, but no physical disabilities, right? But I know she probably thinks about the accident in some type of way that affects her mentally, but physically, nothing wrong with her. And so when I started finding out, I remember she wanted to come visit me. And I didn't want her to come visit me because I'm like, I know she probably blames me, everything, right? And the first thing she says is when she walks in my room, it's like, I forgive you. Gives me a big hug, just says, I forgive you.
Yeah.
Right? And in my head, I'm like, how? Right?
Yeah.
How can you forgive me for change? You survived, of course, but your life is going to be dramatic change with this.
Yeah.
So how can you literally forgive me without me saying anything, right? And so that was just strong, and so still going to therapy, still doing that, and then it's just hard to find light in those situations. Even though I'm getting better, it still feel like, man, like you still asking yourself why every single day. So the whole process, I'm in the Shepherd Center, going through therapy, physical and mental. I still have to get my high school diploma because I didn't finish school.
That's right.
So I had teachers came in my room, we did some tests, whatever like that, so I could pass. So I had a summer graduation, and that was a highlight of my life. And so it was like maybe like kids who didn't necessarily get a chance to graduate. I had some few grades behind, and they let me graduate. And so then I remember going across the stage, like, right, family, friends, it was there, right? Everybody, it was like maybe like 20, like 30 more kids who graduated, right? It was like maybe like 15 kids before they called my name. When they called my name, I go up there on my walker, because I'm still barely walking. I'm just starting to learn how to walk. Yeah. Go down on my walker, crowd is screaming my name. Q, right? And after that, I felt bad for people who walked right after me. Because the whole crowd was still saying my name, and so.
Oh, that's kind of awkward.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but at the same time, people were still just happy, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so even like everybody in the crowd who didn't know me was just saying Q, Q,
Yeah.
Q. And that's how it was. I was pretty popular in high school, so that's what, yeah.
No big deal. You're so popular.
I mean, it was just, like, not saying I expected that.
No, I get it.
No. At that time, not saying I expected that, but when I was in high school, that's what if I would have able to walk across church, that would have been a chance I got.
Yeah.
Probably even more, because there would have been other people out there, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a great feeling, and graduated high school, came home, and I remember coming home, and for the first couple weeks, it was hard. Like, kids in August, friends going off to college.
That's when they're going to college.
best friends and everything like that. Friends that starting their life, right?
Yeah.
And so it got real hard for me that time, and I remember getting my best friend Jasmine's mom number, and I called her just randomly, right? I just want to tell her I'm sorry. And at that time, that's losing a daughter. She has another daughter. At that time, losing a daughter, it was so big to her, right? And she didn't even bash at me like, it's your fault, nothing like that.
Yeah.
She was like, I appreciate you calling me, but she also let me know how she felt. And to take upon that, how she felt, and my guilt combined, I hope nothing nobody ever feels.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I wanted to get a gun and really pull the trigger, because it's like, how can I live with that knowing my guilt, how she feels, it was a lot emotional. Right? And so then friends is going off. I'm going through this. I was trying to like just grapple life, like trying to figure out new life. And I started going back to outpatient therapy. And so that was cool. So I went to outpatient therapy, started losing friends. And that was a big deal for me because, you know, that new life, it was, at that time I didn't realize it, but now I know. It's like, it's hard to be friends with somebody after their life change because conversation's not the same. I can't do what I used to do for other people, because, you know, there's different things. So at the time that was very hard for me, but now I'm older and I'm mature and I realize it's life, you know, that's how it's gonna get.
Yeah.
And so it was that, and then, so that same year, in December 21st, 2014, I just get back from another round of outpatient therapy. Knock at the door. I'm playing the game in my room, I got in my headphones, and it's a crazy thing I did. I probably went to the door. It was the police. My mom answered the door, they said, your son got to turn himself in by the end of the night. I was going to put out a warrant for his arrest. And I was being charged with first-degree vehicle homicide. And I had turned myself in that night, first time ever going to jail. Never been in this struggle in my life. And my mom comes in my room and said, you gotta turn you in tonight. And it was crazy, and so that night, they turned me in, so I spent from December 21st, 2014 to January 7th, 2015. And spent Christmas in jail.
New Year's in jail.
First time away from my family. I was been inside jail cell with complete strangers, right? And at the time before I went to jail, I was like, I think I deserve jail. I think they just need to close the door. But being in there, I was like, oh no, I do not deserve this. I need to get out. And so that was a whole new experience, but that also just taught me to appreciate my family a whole lot more. All right, and just the sacrifices and just things. So I got out of jail January 7th. The next day I had to go to an arraignment to determine my next court date. My next court date was that following April of 2015, April 18th of 2015. So from January 10th to April 2015, I don't know, I said my whole life I could be in jail for like the next 20 years. I was facing 20 years of prison time.
Really?
Yeah, so first degree vehicle homicide. And so at my old high school, another kid gets in an accident. At this time it was on like 7 months after my accident. And so it's still brand new at my old high school. So me and my principal, Miss Nicole Shaw, we have a very close relationship. She calls me, she said, I think it's time. So what you talking about? Said, I think it's time for you to share your story, right? Because everybody was telling me like, you need to share your story, but in my mindset, I'm still thinking, I'm going to the military. Like, man, I'm putting this behind.
You were still thinking that at that time.
At that time, right? After I can get through this physically, put everything behind me, I guess to say, I'm going to the military. I'm not trying to share my story. Like, no. Me and my parents thought about it. We was like, okay, let's do it. And so she wanted me to speak the next day, but I was like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
So at the end of the week, I speak, and I didn't remember too much at the time, right? And so I was a horrible speaker at that time. And so my parents wrote down some stuff. I wrote it off a sheet in our old gymnasium, and everybody in the gymnasium it was seniors and juniors, and so everybody in the gymnasium I knew, right? And so it was probably about 900 kids in there. First time ever speaking. That moment was so raw and so emotional because everybody there lived that day. Everybody who was at that school on May 7, 2014 is a day that you can never forget. Even if I run across somebody now, they'd be like, bro, that day was crazy, bro. Like the first time they see me, they'd be like, man, that day was crazy. It surprised you here. That day was just wild. And so it was still fresh in their mind. And so I'm reading off sheet of paper, crying my eyes out, snot running down my nose. It was very bad, right? And the whole crowd, most of the crowd is crying. And at the end, you get a standing ovation, right? But at that time, I think people were just happy to see me standing up, strength to speak about the story. My best friend who I had since 5th grade was right there beside me. And never seen him cry, still haven't, but he almost cried that day. My mom was crying tears. She wanted, as I was crying, she wanted to come up there and just snatch the mic and just say it's okay. My dad had to hold her back. It was mentor was in the room, and so I remember my first time speaking, I was nervous. Like I was always a class clown, senior teacher, but speaking like that was different. I can remember the first time I was speaking, I look to my favorite teacher in the schoolroom to keep focus. I just look at her and I just read because I gotta find something. I can't look at everybody's face and look at everybody, you know what I mean, reactions. So I just find her face and I just read off the paper and she gets me through it, right? And so after that, the accent was real big around my county, real big around Georgia actually, right? And so I started calling schools around Henry County and I'm like, yo, this is Daqurairus, Greene. I want to come speak at your school. I just wanted to do something. I started doing it. And then they let me speak. So I spoke at maybe it was Desttown, Stockbridge, and Woodland. So,
I have no idea where those places are.
it's in Henry County.
But okay.
It's like 15 minutes away from me. So
okay.
yeah, so I all spoke to them, right? And so it was all cool. Then I still had to go to my arraignment. And so we walk in.
That's right.
Walk in, public defender was like, yo, you're facing 20 years of prison time, but you was able to work out a plea deal. And so it's gonna be 2 months in a detention center and 5 years of probation. And I'm like, cool, sign me up. Where I sign.
Yeah.
Right, and so I get to the judge says, man, bad things happen to good people. And he said, I wish, we didn't have to do anything, but, it's consequences to the actions. And so that's what it was. And so from April 18th to May 18th, that whole month where me and my family are getting prepared to just send me off to the detention center. And so I remember going to the detention center the first day. Grown man, not to get too into it.
Yeah.
You gotta go in there and strip yourself, do all the checks, cut yourself completely bald, right? And it was like, and you go in there, first night in the detention center, I cried myself to sleep. I'm like, man, how am I gonna survive 60 days in here?
And you were literally legally an adult. You're just 18, so you weren't
I
even
was
out of
19.
juvie.
I was
19
at that time.
at this point, so you weren't in juvie. You were in jail with these grown men.
Grown man, I just went in there.
Wow.
Alright, and so it was a scary place, right? And I'm still I'm on my cane. I'm still still fresh in the recovery process. So I'm still in there, and first couple of days, you hear stories about going it's a detention center, right? But in my head, this is prison. It's completely two different things.
Which it took me recently to realize.
That
they are two different things.
It's definitely two different things.
Yeah.
But in my mind as a kid, they're the same.
Mm-hmm.
So as boys, you hear stories what keep you away from jail, right? Not to go too much in there.
Yeah.
Only thing on my mind. I can't let that happen. I don't know. If anything else, I can't let it happen. It didn't happen. But anyway, so inmates, they see me walking with a cane, walking with a limp. Naturally, the inmates are the one who looked out for me most when I was in there. And so I got in contact with my mom. We set up the call cell and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and we'll call my mom after 4 o'clock each day. We get so I can go to the store, the commissary.
Yeah.
Where I go to the store and everything like that. So the inmates really looked out for me and did everything like that. But as that whole time in there, I'm getting letters from family members, everything, right? And so we used to have a bet, let's see who's gonna get the most letters. After week 3, they stopped it because I was getting a letter every day.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're like, okay, cool. And so again, that showed me how important family was, not just my mom and dad, but my grandma, my auntie, cousins, my best friends, sending me letters. Everything, able to talk. When I was seeing dudes who in there who didn't get no letters, who wasn't getting commissary, who wasn't doing this. And so, and there were just different things like that. And so I remember there was this one guy, I was born in Augusta, Georgia originally, but been living in Metro Atlanta areas in 1999. And he was from Augusta. They called him AUG. But he didn't have no family. But me and him was in the same lineup that the first day we get in. And in that detention center, if you didn't have nobody come pick you up, you had to do a whole 6 months, because that's the most you could do in there, 6 months. And so, yeah, it was weird. Like, so you could either get 60 days, 3 months, or 6 months. And so, I got 60 days, but if, say my mom didn't come pick me up, I would have to do the whole 6 months.
Wow.
And so, he didn't have nobody to pick him up. And so, he helped me out a lot in there. And so, my mom, we made calls to get him set up, so he can get out. So, he got out the same day I did, knock him. His last name was Mims, and I could just remember him. We both said thank you, hugged it out. But I remember my mom coming to get me. It was like, I wanted to run. Basically, I can't run. But when I saw her, I wanted to run and jump into her arms. First thing we got when I got attention was a Burger King, because I ate ramen noodles for 60 days straight. It was really bad. Like breakfast and ramen noodles 60 days straight. And so I just remember, and that whole time as I'm in the detention center, it's 2015. Year after I graduated high school, and so I'm like, man, I got to do something with my life. I got to try to do something. So the whole time I'm in the detention center, my mom is doing things to try to get me into college, doing whatever like that. And so that was before Georgia State merged with Georgia Perimeter. It was Georgia Perimeter, right? And so my high school grades was horrible, only because I didn't try. My mindset was D's, get degrees. That was it.
That was me at one point in college. I was like, listen.
Yeah, that was it. And I realized, I'm like, what, bro, you don't have to have a 2.0 to graduate.
Yeah.
You can get these and be okay, because you're still going to get that 0.5 credit.
Yeah.
So coming out of high school, my mom hates when I tell people this, but I graduated with 1.4 average. That was a D average, right? So you can't get into college without doing that. I didn't take the SATs, SATs, because I didn't think college for me. So I had to take the competence test. I passed that. So when I first got into college, took a little bit of classes, because my dad had always set up a college fund, but, and so we was able to do that, and then, I started realizing, okay, maybe I can do this college thing, right? It's not that bad. Take a little bit of classes there, take a little bit of classes there, but in the moments, I was still speaking, but not really as driven to speaking like I am now. And so it was 2015, and I remember next year in 2016, I spoke at a few places, and I had a dream. And in that dream, I was speaking to thousands of people. Don't know where I was speaking at, Shannon. And I woke up from that dream. I said, "This is what I gotta do."
Yeah.
Because at that time, I'm still dealing with guilty consciousness of my best friend, because my life is progressing, and you still think like, man, my best friend, she didn't get a chance to live her life. Right? 2016 would have been the year she graduated from high school. And so it's like, okay. And I was always just trying to find some connection with my best friend. So every time I get up on the stage and speak, I feel like she's right there with me. And so I was like, I gotta speak. So I can always feel that connection. And so then that's when I really started going hard, like speaking, coming up with my ministry name, like not knowing what it's gonna lead to. I'm just driven, like I gotta speak. Start calling schools, my pastor let me like call the connects to your other pastors, say I want to speak for everything, and I started getting better. That's where speaking, the more repetition you get, the better you get. So I started getting better, start taking it more seriously, practicing every night, even if it was saying the same thing over. It was just getting comfortable and confident with practicing, and using different verbiage and using different words, because small little words can just change your whole speech up.
It can.
Like honestly.
Totally.
And so that's what I started to do. And my dad, people was like, you gotta come up with a ministry name, you gotta come up. And my dad, before I would leave the house all the time, he would always say, Q, you one decision away. And 16, 17, 18-year-old, you think one decision. Right?
Yeah, think nothing of it.
Nothing of it. Like, man, I take the car all the time. I go one decision, I do stupid things all the time. One decision. It's not gonna change my life. I make bad one decisions all the time. And when people start to think about that, I'm like, one decision away.
Which is so perfect. Like, that is so fitting and so perfect. And I feel like God really did put that in your heart. And he revealed it to you at the most perfect time, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because people was like, I remember one day I was like, date with destiny. It was just different things.
Yeah.
Those didn't stick with me.
Yeah.
But for one reason.
This really spoke.
One decision away did.
Yeah.
And so that's what I came up with, like one decision away, because I believe in life, that one decision away from your greatest outcome or your biggest downfall.
Yeah.
And it only takes one decision to change your life. And so that's why I started pushing one decision. Now I'm gonna take a break. I don't know if you got any more questions.
No. I think obviously I talk a lot, but like this it's like I'm doing a lot of listening, which is clearly I want people to know more about your story and how like that has impacted you. And I know with your one decision, I almost said company, but just your whole brand and like just what you believe in, I guess you can say. How, like, what do you do now? I know you raise money, right?
So after I speak, I sell these wristbands, which you can't see right now, but it's black.
I'll put a picture. I have mine. I'll put a
Okay,
picture.
yeah. It's black and it says one decision away on it, right?
Yeah.
And so the lettering, the white lettering on it is gone because I wear it every single day, but the word is still there. So after I speak, because when I speak, the first thing is to honor God. Second, to honor my best friend, and third, to make sure the audience gets the message.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky enough to get to tell the story. And so in 2017, I wanted to make sure, because we all have an expiration date, and unfortunately, we don't know when it is. So I was hearing one of my favorite speakers speak one time. His name is Inky Johnson. And he said in his speech, we're born to honor our parents, but we live to leave a legacy for the ones behind us. And I said, what legacy will I be leaving behind after I'm going this earth? More importantly, what will be Jasmine Michaela Poole legacy? And so with that, I started up a scholarship fund because I wanted her name to live longer than mine does, right? And so after I speak, I sell these bracelets for $3. And they all go to the scholarship fund. And so in 2017, I was able to raise up $500. 2018, I was ready to raise up $1,000. 2019, 1,500, 2020, 1,000, 2020, 1,500, then 2021, 2,000, right? And so right now I'm gonna keep it at 2,000. That's what I'm gonna give away this year. And so because I just want her name to just always be everlasting, not only for me, but for other people as well. Right?
And so you give the scholarship money to
a cheerleader. With the highest GPA because my best friend was a cheerleader.
Jasmine was a cheerleader.
And I thought of no better way to give the scholarship away.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And so I was able to, I turned the one decision away into an LLC, but the goal is to turn the LLC into a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
And that's what I'm in grad school
right
now.
I was like, that's what you do now.
Yeah, in grad school right now, so it's creative, innovative education, but with a concentration in nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so the two classes I'm taking right now is nonprofit and grant writing. So we're just learning how those two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so still, as I'm speaking, giving scholarships away, I'm still trying to reconcile with the family, right? And so the auntie of Jasmine's auntie, me and her kept in contact, right? And so we would always meet up every once in a while, go get some dinner. I would just tell her what I was doing, trying to kind of keep the family alive. And in 2020, literally before COVID broke out, we went to Arizona's restaurant near Stonecrest. And I walk in the restaurant, and it's Jasmine auntie and her mom sitting at the table. I had no idea her mom was gonna be there. Right.
Was that your first time seeing her? In person?
No.
Well, you're talking.
Actually, my first time seeing her in person since the accident. Was with me and my mom when I was moving in here in 2019 January. We was in Walmart, and we walked past each other, and we gave each other aqua hug. It was weird, but it was my first time sitting down. Right, so I called my best friend like, bro, Jasmine, mom here. I don't know what to do, right?
Yeah, and now at this point, 2014 to 2020, that's 6 years later.
6 years later.
And you're still in that moment of like shock, I guess.
It's
like, what word do you want to use?
Because I just didn't know, right? And so he was like, bro, she probably not there to bash at you. She probably want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So we talked. Very emotional, raw moment. Right? Crying.
In the middle of a restaurant.
In the middle of a restaurant, right, crying.
Love it. You can't get more vulnerable than that.
Yeah, unfortunately, COVID broke out, so, you know, we wasn't able to meet up at first, but, you know, when things kind of started opening up, we met up and things like this. But a moment that I will always be thankful for her was, they're originally from Alabama.
Oh, okay.
And they had only been living in Georgia for about 2 years.
Okay.
When the accident happened, right?
Wow.
And so Jasmine, she was a freshman, and then sophomore year it happened.
That's right.
Yeah, and so then they had planned to move back to Alabama. You know, then we had talk on the phone, you know, casually, and we met at a not Olive Garden. I can't believe Carrabba's.
What?
Carrabba's. It's an Italian restaurant. It's like a upstate.
Oh wait, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's out here.
Yeah, it's out here, right? And so we met out there on Monroe in Clayton County. I'll never forget, and it was after my graduation. I just graduated college, and we met up, and then she said, yeah, we're going back to Alabama, but she said, I need to make sure you're okay. She said, cause I'm fine. I gave it up to God, right? It's up to God, right? You know what I'm saying? So I just need to make sure you're fine. So I think I'm gonna be okay. And she hugged me, and Shannon, she said, let go. And what she meant by that was let go of the guilt, let go of the weight. What happened on that day, you can't do nothing about it now. And it was meant to be happening. Jasmine, she lived 16 years of her life. And that's what God meant for her to live. And you can't do nothing about it. When I heard those words, it was so much weight lifted off my shoulders. It was crazy, right? It was just like, man, the guilt, I don't feel as guilty. I don't know if I ever be 100% guilt free, but that weight that she lifted off my shoulders was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was able it's like a whole new life opened up for me, a whole new door opened up for me, right? And I can remember sitting in that parking lot crying for the next 2 hours. Wow. People coming to like, you okay? I said, bro, I'm perfect. These tears are joy.
It was like happy tears for the first time, probably.
For the first time, right? Yeah. And so it was crazy. I just remember driving home just crying, right? Just graduated college, you already know what that way already. So like after college, right? And so just hearing that, it was music to my ears.
It's insane to think that this was so recent.
Last year. Now, it hasn't even been a year since. It'll be a year like coming up like early, maybe like June or something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was like that, and then I would just weight off my shoulders, and so that just helped me out so much going through that whole process.
You went from, which I can't even think of you being like a bad student, like that's how much you believe in yourself.
No,
what is it? You were more a lot of energy.
A lot of energy, like it was just so much, and everybody would always tell me, "Q, slow down."
So like you literally went from that, and then you had your accident to being paralyzed and saying you weren't gonna live.
Yes.
To jail, and then after college you're in grad school. Well, no, after college you have that moment of like, you feel like, I don't know, you tell me, like, do you feel like you're a little bit more free?
Yeah, definitely, and just experiences, because the whole time I was in college, even like moving to campus, it was never, I guess it was to get that college experience, but for me it was more of, I'm gonna have to get up early in the morning, fight through traffic.
Drive.
You know, that was more for me moving on campus than anything, because even when I moved on campus, I barely even go out. Like everybody would always see me like, dang bro, like we only see you during the daytime, because I was in my room playing the game, right, with my friends. That's how I stayed connected with my friends. But even just staying here and just seeing how college students live their life, it was pretty cool. So I'm like, okay, I see it. It's nice, you know, this is what I missed out on. And even I went to some parties and just different things like that. But through understanding what I thought I missed out on, I knew it wasn't for me. Because when I did go, I was wishing I was in my room. Right? You know what I mean? I was wishing I was practicing on my speeches in the little community centers where I used to do. And that's where I met some good friends at in the community center. I remember one time I was practicing. I was like, "Girl, y'all gonna be in here for a minute?" They was like, "A little bit," and I was like, "You know what? I got a speech tomorrow. Y'all want to hear it just from practicing?"
Oh wow.
Heard it. Her name was Christina. She stayed in my dorm room, and so when I had my ears pierced, right, my mom used to put them in. That's the only people I used to let put in my ears was my mom, because I just felt very subconscious about it, and so. when I was on campus, my mom was like, "Who gonna put in earrings?" I was like, "I don't know," because I couldn't take them out and put them in. And so I met Christina, and me and her became close friends. I called her. I was like, "Mom, I think I got somebody to put my earrings." And then so it was that, and even I don't know if you remember, but it was during the summer of 2019. And it was when, remember, all the football players when they used to stay.
Yeah, when they were here.
They was here. And it was the summer before they moved to Aspen. While they were moving to Aspen, and I was coming back from the subway because it was a sunny day. And I was walking, right? And whenever I would call my mom till I'm walking to Waffle House at Subway, she would get paranoid. She was like, "Call me when you make it back."
Yeah.
And so it was during the daytime though, but I was walking back. I was staying in the B building because that's where all the football players stayed.
Yeah.
And so as I'm walking in the building, I used to see the football players all the time, give them a head nod. People, they used to try to help me. I was like, "I'm good, bro." But it was this one guy, his name's Daqurairus. He came up to me and walked up to me and he was like, "Bro, you my favorite person to see." I'm like, that's like a guy hearing that from another guy.
Yeah.
He swole, he like 6'2", and I'm
Yeah.
like, I guess he's like, "I don't know what happened to you, bro, but every time I see you, bro, it gives you inspiration to move on."
Yeah.
And so, being a college student with a disability and not knowing, and not knowing how people react to you, because I told you when I first sat down before the camera started rolling, I said, people look at me all the time, it's like 5 minutes, right, and they don't really know why I walk like that, they just give me a strange look, and they go about their day. So I know people notice me, but I didn't think people would notice me like that.
I think it's also like, even without even knowing your story, I feel like you kind of just bring this like energy, and God, I feel like, just gifted you to really just like, you don't have to say anything, and people will just look at you and be like, dude, like, I'm not surprised. Like when the guy was like, "You're my favorite person to see." Because you just have that natural energy. And giving words of affirmation is really hard for me, so. So this, I don't want it to get awkward. But I'm literally like not surprised at all. Like even, like I said, when you would, like you spent like a whole like semester and a half, just be like, "Hey Shannon," like I said, you were like the only student that would do that. And then finally, that's when I got to know you, I feel like beyond the surface level, like on a deeper level. And so that is just phenomenal. If there was one thing that like, and this is probably hard, I don't know if there's one thing, but if there's one thing that you wanted to share with someone watching this, whether it's about making those decisions in life or just how they look at life and how they live every day, what would you say?
I would say, you can't always control what happens to you in life, but you can control how you respond to it. Because I didn't choose to break my neck.
Yeah.
I didn't choose to be partially paralyzed on my left side. Right? I didn't choose to lose my best friend. But I chose to how to respond to it and not give up.
Yeah.
And to keep pressing on and to keep going, because as a college student, as a person, life gets so difficult. And you don't know whether you're going to make it. You wake up every single day like, if you're not in the best headspace or not, like, is it going to get better?
Yeah.
I would just tell people, it will. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep pressing on, even through the darkest of times where your wall is backed up in the corner. You just got to keep going. Because if you quit, you're going to always be in that darkness. And you're going to always have regret about what if. What if I didn't do this? What if I didn't do that? Just do it. What's like, what? Like, you know, it's easy to say, like, the worst going to happen is, it may not happen, but at least you can say you tried. And that's what I pride myself with, because whenever I'm in my dying bed, whether it's tonight, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's 20 years from now, before I close my eyes for the final time, I want to say, I have no regrets. And I did everything that I said I was going to do, right? And so that was it.
I love that you say that. One of my favorite Bible verses, which my very first tattoo, it's on my ribs. Philippians 3:14, which talks about pressing on towards the goal that God has established for you in your life, and to just keep moving and keep going, and that there's always going to be people who are going to try to judge you for whatever decisions that you make or how you present yourself, but the only person who is going to really be there for you constantly is God, right? And so thank you for just sharing that, and thank you for being here. Like I said, this was a long awaited video. No, like, and I love your presence, and I love that you're able to really just spread this message to everyone. And we talked about some triggering things, so I definitely want to talk to everyone that, like, if you are experiencing any mental health challenges, whether it is, you know, like you were mentioning, thoughts of suicide and especially one of my next videos is going to be about mental health in Black men specifically, and how that there's a large judgment towards that. Just go seek help, whatever that means to you, whether that's going to a friend, going to a licensed therapist, counselor.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what do you want to touch on
I mean,
that?
go get help.
Yeah.
If you need it, because in this world that goes on as a Black man, you already wake up like in a defensive position, and it's just hard to look at it through another eye window. But it's good to go see a counselor, like I said in the show. Like this, if it wasn't for her, honestly, I don't know if I'd be alive.
Yeah.
Because actually I have her tattooed on me. I met her in a nursing facility, so I have a medical sign. So it's her birthday, May 28, 1960, in Roman numerals. Because it's on my rib, because that's, like, she means so much to me.
Wow.
And she's helped me so much just through life, through anything else. And I would have never thought I would have been, going to counseling, but I would just say, or just talk to somebody, right?
Yeah.
I have a friend, you know what I mean? Just somebody that you can listen out to, whatever, like that. Like, even if I don't know somebody, I'd be like, bro, if you need somebody to vent to, I'll be here, because I know exactly how it is in the world. But I would just always say, just seek help, and just even if you just need to vent to somebody, just try to vent to a trusting ear, because you can't always vent to everybody. Just to a trusting ear, because sometimes you don't need no feedback, you just need to let somebody know what you're going to. You'll actually find out you're not alone.
And you're not a burden
on anyone. I
think that's what, in our Black community, that's why we're so hesitant, because I feel like for you as a Black man, you're probably like, well, I'm supposed to be tough. To me, vulnerability shows the most strength that you can ever have. And knowing that you're not someone where you're going to be a burden on someone, or like someone is like, feeling like you're putting weight on someone else's shoulders. So thank you for being here again. How can they find you? How can they donate to the scholarship?
Again, you can call me. You can reach me at one decision away _ one decision away with the number 1 on my Twitter at one decision away with the number 1, and on my website is onedecisionaway.com. My number's on my website, so I'm pretty open with communication. But if you want to able to donate to the scholarship, I don't have nothing set up on my website or nothing yet. But you can cash at me, and all the funds go to the scholarship, and it's money sign one decision away. I have Zelle, I have Venmo, I have everything electronically. So if you want to do that, just reach out to me and just let me know, so I know if I get a cash app, it's for that.
Yeah.
It don't just be nothing unexpected, so it's for that. So it can go right into the fund. So that's how you can reach me. And like I said, I'm just always open for communication. So if anybody have any questions, you can ask. Like I was saying, I know when we first meet, I used to come to your office and you used to be like, yo, what's up? Like, you just be real hesitant. I'm like, bro, just ask. It's cool.
Well, yeah, I just, I'm trying to break that, because for some people who do you label yourself as a disability? I know some people it's just like not able, so I wasn't sure what terminology you use, but it's more of just asking the question versus assuming. Like you were saying, like when you do have your friends who walk ahead of you, instead of, them being kind of like coddling you, if that's the right word to use, you're just like, I'm good.
I'm good, yeah, definitely, right? Even the GSU football player, like when they have parties, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be so funny, because what I used to think, like when I was first in my accent, I used to hate going out outside. Like, everybody's gonna stare at me.
Yeah.
It's like I used to be ashamed of the way I walk, but now it has gotten me into rooms I never thought I would be in. Or just opportunities are in just spaces. Like, for one thing, jokingly, it's not as serious, but all the college parties, right? You know how parties go, Shannon. Like, they want more females in there than they do men, right? And so,
don't even get me started with these Georgia State parties.
Yeah, and so all the football players, they would already have a whole bunch of.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna stop recording.
So they would already have a whole bunch of guys in there, so it'd be a line of guys wrapped outside. Yeah. And because I knew some of the football players, like I knew Ja'Cory, and from that, I knew other football players. They'd be, oh, you cute. Oh, come in.
Come up here, yeah.
Come in, and then I'll be in the back of the party. They'll like sit me like a little VIP section.
That's so funny.
And then they'd just walk around and I'd be like, I'm good. I'm good. And I would literally be in there by myself, not knowing for real, not nobody for real.
Yeah.
Besides them, so it'd just be funny. And it's just different rooms, there's different opportunities, and like that's how I kind of just. No, also if any college students are out here, Like, don't let college use college.
Ooh, that's a good one. I wish I would have known that.
Yeah, and it's just,
I want to go back to school just so I can use
yeah,
that
it's
advice.
so because it's like
That's a good one.
many people at Georgia State, they like to dress well, put in their AirPods, and just be super cool and be super tough. But it's so many opportunities
Yeah.
at Georgia State, and all you have to do is open your mouth and just find out and just get in the room. Because once you're in the room and networking, man, there's so many places that people can take you, right?
Yeah.
And so I use my story as a catapult to get me into certain rooms, right? When I go to the basketball games, because I was able to speak to the basketball team, I have a close relationship with them, I have an all-access pass, so I can just go in the gym. Right? And the football stadiums, I can just go in the football stadium just because they know what I do. And just, you know what I mean? And just be open and charismatic, because you just never know what it could lead to and what room it could get you into. So, yeah.
I love your vulnerability. I love how you are just so, like, I feel like you are touching so many lives with sharing your story. And whether this gets 2 views or 200,000 views, like, it's going to touch that 1 or 2 or 20 people. Thank you again for being here. I feel like I'm like hitting the chair so much. Thank you again for being here. It means a lot.
Thanks for having me. Honestly, I love to speak about this thing. Like, honestly, like, I get emotional every time. It doesn't care, but I always could. Most important thing for me, whether I'm speaking or not, I love helping somebody.
Yeah.
And sometimes hearing my story can help somebody out, even though it may not be as catastrophic. It may not be as fatal or much as high attitude of it, but everybody has their own Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And people need help getting over their Mount Everest. Right? Everybody has a different Mount Everest, and so if my Mount Everest can help somebody get over their Mount Everest, that's all that matters. Because I just believe on earth, as long as you help somebody else out as you go through life, you'll be okay. Because we have a purpose. But as we're walking through our purpose, we have to make sure that we uplift other people we come in contact with.
1,000%. I feel like that's such a good note to end it on. I feel like we could just go on, but my memory card probably won't be able to take all of it. Oh my gosh, again, like, this is probably one of my favorite videos, and you all know where to find Q. Also, this is a side note, I love your hashtag Q-tips. Is so creative. I don't follow you on Twitter. I don't really have Twitter. I mean, I do, but I'm not active on it. But you post your Q-tips on Instagram, which I think is amazing. You all know where to find Q. Please definitely support his organization, business, soon to be nonprofit, because it is going to be a nonprofit, and donate. Like he said, the scholarship funds go straight to the cheerleader of the highest GPA. At what high school is it?
Dashtown High School.
Yes.
Located in Hampton, Georgia.
Yes. So you are going to be helping change lives, and I hope you were able to get a lot from what Q was saying. I appreciate you all for watching this, and I will see you all next week on my next video, which I have no idea what it's going to be about, but it's going to be amazing. Probably not as amazing as this one, but it's going to be great. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye. That was great, Q. Oh my gosh.